So you might be thinking, enough with sailboats already, Jackie. You've done way too many of them. But then I go to the beach and I find something and it says to me, I'm a sailboat and I have to make a sailboat out of it. So join me for this video when I'll show you 9 steps that I followed to create this sailboat sea glass mosaic of a sailboat sailing in the moonlight. So to complete a sea glass mosaic on this frame, the first step is to prepare your frame. So what I did was I found this little frame at a thrift shop. It was really old, kind of rough looking, and it was that kind of ugly gold old-fashioned color. So what I did was I did a bit of a whitewash paint, not really bright white, but whitewash, and then I scuffed up the paint a little bit too to give it a bit of character. And then I took the glass and I ran a bead of clear silicone all the way around the inside on the back of the frame. And I've weighed it. I did this a week or so ago, so the frame is ready to go. The glass is sturdy in there. I find when you do this, you have to let it sit for a while before you start, because you want to make sure that your glass is going to stay where you want it to. So my frame is ready. Now the second step is to prepare your pattern. So what I did was I took a piece of paper and cut it the exact size of the frame so it fits in behind there really well. And I took the top of a yogurt container and I used that as my template, drew a circle because I know I want to do a full moon, and I drew a line for the horizon and just used a straight edge to draw the line. And then I want to tape my pattern into my frame, tape it to the back. Now when you have a pattern like this where there's a circle, you have to be really particular to follow the pattern. So I want it to be taped good and secure to the back of my glass, so that I can follow the line exactly when I'm placing the sea glass. So there, my pattern is all ready, my frame's all ready. I just got to check here, make sure that your horizon line is at a 90-degree angle with your frame so that it's not crooked. A crooked horizon line is not going to look right. So step 3 is to choose your sea glass. So the reason why I'm doing this particular piece is I found this incredible piece of pottery. It's not super smooth, but it's a really cool piece of pottery, and there are these 2 lines in it. And when I picked it up, my husband looked at it and he said, that looks like a sail, perfect sail for a sailboat. So I thought this would be, in a really small piece, quite dramatic to have a giant sailboat sailing out on the water in the full moon. And then the other thing that I found is a fishing weight. This is for a fishing rod. They do quite a bit of bass fishing around here, and that's a heavy weight for a line, and I thought that would make a really cool hull for the boat. And then I picked out a piece of blue that I want to use for the sail, and I picked out a few pieces of really small pieces of sea pottery to make a tiny little inukshuk down here that's going to be sitting right on the frame. And then the other sea glass I need, this is a small piece, so I'm only going to use small pieces of sea glass. I picked out some small white sea glass, blue sea glass, or sorry, that's green, not blue, and brown sea glass. And that's all I'm using for this project. So I've got all my sea glass and my sea treasures ready to start gluing on. So step 4 is to glue on the sea glass for the focal point. So for this piece, the focal point is the sailboat. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue on the sailboat and the hull of the sailboat, the little flag, and I'm going to glue the little inukshuk here that's sitting on the horizon line. So this is the focal point. The inukshuk is like the secondary focal point. So I want to glue those on first, and then the rest of the sea glass fits around those. So step 5 is to glue on the sea glass closest to the focal point. So what I would do is I would put all of my white sea glass on first, being very careful to create this full moon. So that would come next, because you want to make sure that you're getting what's around. You want to get that full moon first, because the full moon is really going to be dramatic, you know, with the sailboat out sailing in the full moon. And the other thing that I think I'm going to do is have a couple of white pieces down here in the water. So I'm not gluing those on yet. I'll glue those on when I do the water, but I want some of the moon being reflected in the water. So I'll be putting some tiny little white pieces down here as well. Just make sure those are sitting there. Just going to lay all this out first, and then I'll glue it on after a bit, like after I've got it all planned out. And then step 6 is to glue on the background. So I would glue on all green pieces down here, all around the bottom part, so being very careful to keep that horizon line and to make sure that it's fitting in nicely around the inukshuk in the bottom of the sailboat. And this is a night sky because we've got the full moon here. So I would glue on all the brown sea glass around the top part. So there, I'm all planned and ready to go with this sea glass mosaic. So the next step is to let the silicone set. So I've let this set for a couple of days, and then I flipped it over and took the back off. Now you know the silicone has set when it's all dried clear. Now as you can see, most of the silicone has dried clear on all the small pieces, but the bigger the piece is, the more silicone you use. So you can see on the sail, which was the first thing I glued on, there's still quite a bit of white. So I'll know that that's set 100% clear once all of that white has turned clear. And it will. For a piece that big, it'll probably take a couple of weeks, but it will eventually dry clear. So the next step is to put some hanging hardware on your piece. So I have 2 of these little round hanging screws and a fairly short piece of hanging wire, because I want to hang this in a window, so I'm just going to put a small piece of hanging wire here. If I wanted it to hang from the top of the window, I'd need a longer piece so that you'd have a piece long enough to hang off a cup hook in the top of your window. But I think this one's light enough to hang on a suction cup. So I'm going to put my screws in here and then put the hanging hardware across. Let me show you. So there you go. I've got my 2 little round screws in there. I just take my piece of picture hanging wire and I'm going to attach that. And I also have to keep in mind that I need a little bit of slack, because I want to make sure that the wire hangs behind the frame, not behind the glass. Because if it hangs behind the glass, you can kind of see the wire. So I want it to hang up here. I'll be okay because of where I put the hooks for this one. Now sometimes when I do things like this, pieces will fall off the front. And I can see that the hull of my boat has fallen off, because that sticks out kind of far, but that's okay. I can just reattach it on with a little bit more silicone. And part of the reason it fell off is that it has only been setting for a couple of days. What you'll find is that with the clear silicone, the clear caulking, the longer it sets, the firmer the hold. So if you find things falling off in the first few days after you make something, don't despair. It will probably, by the time it's been sitting there a while, be pretty hard to pry off. So there you go. This piece is ready to hang. I just have to glue this one. I have to glue the hull of the boat back on and it'll be all set. So the last step is to hang your sea glass mosaic. So I have put a suction cup here in my window, and it's a fairly big suction cup, which is going to be enough to take the weight of this sea glass mosaic, because this is a small sea glass mosaic. Obviously for a big one, a suction cup is not going to do the trick. But for this one, I just hang my sea glass mosaic on the suction cup and I can look at it with the sun coming through. It really makes the sea glass look nice. I know in the lighting for the video the white frame looks black, but here I can see the frame is white and it looks spectacular. So I really hope you found these steps to creating a sea glass mosaic helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comment section down below. And I really hope you make it out to the beach. And until next time, happy sea glass hunting.